What's up, everyone, and welcome to Coffee with Ola today with Josh Middleton. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, dude, easy.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
So, how are you doing?
Yeah, really good.
You're
really
currently on tour.
Yes, been on tour for 6 weeks maybe.
Right.
So one US tour, and then we're just partway into UK, European, and Scandinavian tour.
Tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with Fit for an Autopsy.
Yes.
And
yeah.
Sylosis, obviously,
Yes.
that Josh is the main guy for. I mean, it is your band.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
But you didn't actually sing from the start, did you? You were just playing...
We started in like 2000, and we were just kids. So we didn't do anything until our first EP was 2005. Did 2 EPs, did our first record with Nuclear Blast in 2008, and then parted ways with our singer 2009, 2010.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where we could either spend a lot of time trying to find like the right vocalist who fit in, who had touring experience, or I could just try and learn.
Right.
And try not to lose momentum, because that could have taken us like a year of doing nothing. We just released our first record. So yeah, definitely not since the start. I've been doing it since 2010.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how does one just learn how to sing?
I feel like I've only just got an idea of what I'm doing. Yeah, control over it like the last couple of years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a lot of trial and error. I'd be driving around in my car, like drive to my girlfriend's house, and that'd be my chance to scream.
Right.
Blow my voice out, taste blood.
Right.
Obviously doing it wrong. And then, yeah.
Well, the thing about doing it wrong is that that's what everyone did back in the day, and that's why everyone has their unique voice.
Yes.
You know?
Well, yeah.
In my opinion, like, I mean, you listen to a lot of bands today. This is just completely on the side, but you listen to a lot of bands today, and they have sort of like a same-ish, because everyone got taught how to, because everyone watched YouTube videos, and
maybe.
You know, you kind of. In my opinion, there's a little of that individualism gone in the vocals today. In some
I think so.
bands.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Yeah, definitely. I would always just try and emulate Joe from Gojira and Phil Anselmo, where there's a bit of a pitch to what I was doing.
So that's actually okay. Just dude, I'm interrupting so often now. I'm sorry, but I just gotta say before we start that Sylosis is a band I highly respect and like, because you guys, I mean, even though you started in 2000s, you're still a modern band. I mean, I would say, but modern band, but you're keeping one of my favorite elements, which are the 90s. In your sound. That's something I really love and respect.
Thank you.
One of the things that I really caught on to, which I really liked, is that you have a pitch in your voice, and it gives the music way more melody than just the screaming.
Yeah, and we didn't really want to do the singy choruses thing the same way as like metalcore bands, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that meant we could allude to having a melody without it sounding like cheesy.
Right. It's still metal enough.
Yeah.
So what are your influences, like, going back? You mentioned Phil Anselmo and
I mean,
Joe and...
to be honest, the first subgenre that I got obsessed with was death metal. So I got into like Korn, then Slipknot, and Pantera. And Slipknot were the band that would talk about Morbid Angel and Cannibal Corpse in interviews around the first record. So I went straight out and got Blessed Are the Sick by Morbid Angel, and then I got Bloodthirst by Cannibal Corpse. So we listened to a lot of death metal, actually, and Nihility by Decapitated was like game changer for us. Just that record, as a riff writer, was just one of the most inspiring. So it started off with a lot of extreme elements, but we wanted Sylosis to just be a metal band, in the same way that Pantera, Machine Head, or like Lamb of God later on, but just make it heavier with like some of the elements from extreme music.
Right.
And we definitely gone on different journeys. Like when Crack the Sky came out by Mastodon, that just like took me down this I want to be
progressive path.
Yeah. And we started using Marshall amps and stuff and trying to make our production a bit more raw.
In terms of influences when it comes to guitar playing, because first and foremost of all, you started playing guitar before you were singing. So Dimebag, I guess?
Yeah, Dimebag was like the main one for me, James Hetfield for riffing, and the other two were like Trey from Morbid Angel and then like Pat and Jack from Cannibal Corpse in that Bloodthirst era. And because I'm kind of known as like a shreddy guitarist, people try and talk to me about shredders.
Yeah.
But I got into shredding through like extreme stuff, just because they were like, yeah,
right.
And it sounded, especially picking every note, just sounded really heavy and aggressive. So it wasn't until later actually I realized that all my favorite Morbid Angel solos on Domination was Eric Rutan, who's from Hate Eternal.
Yeah.
And his style was really influential to me. I mean, I did have guitar lessons the whole time, and my guitar teacher would show me like Joe Satriani and Steve Vai, but I never took an interest in that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But the closest I get to like Steve Vai stuff is those sort of mid-era Soilwork records where there's a lot of like Lydian and melodic stuff. Yeah, I love those guys.
Right.
Like Peter and Ola, I forget his name.
The French guy or the real
Ola,
guy?
he was he was in like Natural Born Chaos.
Yes,
that era.
Yeah.
With Pete Witcher.
Did you ever did you ever play 7-string?
No, never. Yeah.
No.
Just couldn't get on with it.
Right.
Because I think partly because I, from a young age, was having guitar lessons and I was quite into my theory and my scales, and it just threw me off.
Okay.
Yeah. And I most of the bands that I liked were 6-string, like Machine Head and Pantera, so I just stuck with it. And Sepultura.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that I also like about Sylosis is that you keep you don't tune down that much.
No, we have done now. I think I don't know if we'll go low. We're in C# standard currently.
Right.
And that's a bit of a nod to like Testament.
Right.
Because I like the Gathering.
Yes.
But yeah, we were in E standard for the longest time.
Yeah.
And partly because when our first record came out in 2008, which was the first one we did, we were in D before that. Metalcore was really big and deathcore was coming out.
Yeah.
And I listened to bands like Hatebreed and Terror and hardcore bands, but we wanted to just kind of not be lumped in with those bands. So it was sort of like a rule, like we're gonna tune our guitars to E, just gonna listen to Injustice for All. Nothing that resembles a breakdown is allowed. And then that's kind of what we did. I think, I was a huge fan of Death and still am as well.
Yeah.
And I was like, we're just gonna try and appeal to that elitist metalhead guy kind of crowd. Those boundaries is what led to us actually going on hiatus in 2016, because I felt too boxed in by that, because we just stayed in E standard and I wanted to like go down a little bit.
Right.
But I didn't like it when I go see like Sepultura and they play the old stuff down-tuned.
Down-tuned, yeah.
But we not a huge band, so I can't take like 4 guitars with me, a backup for E and then a different tuning. I need to kind of break out of that mindset, because, growing up listening to Machine Head and Pantera, they had, breakdowns.
Yeah.
But we weren't like allowed to do that because we didn't want to be called a metalcore band. We were like too afraid to, because we were just like kids with short hair. We wanted to be taken seriously by like, especially being on like Nuclear Blast. But I think the world, especially the heavy music world, is way more just open-minded now, and those kind of things just don't matter. And I'm older now, I just don't care.
Yeah, exactly. But also now there's technology that's good. That can actually pitch you up and down. So
there's that too, yeah.
You don't have to bring 1,000 guitars anymore.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Yeah.
But also with the, that I think is very important, it's just like, okay, it sounds easy. Just, standard E, it's easy, but it's not easy. It actually puts a lot of emphasis on the riff being really, really good.
Yeah.
Because tuning down is cheating a little bit.
Yeah, you can hear every note.
Yes.
And like, that was another thing I kind of have, because of my background with theory. Not that I'm crazy, like, I don't know like jazz stuff. I just know the modes, and that helps me get around. But I'd have like a bit of a OCD about doing anything chromatic or anything that was out of key.
Yeah.
So the riff's either going to be a diminished riff, or Phrygian dominant, or it'll be Phrygian or whatever. But yeah, because you can hear every note. If you put a note that's just outside, it's like,
Right. Then it's stuff like, even on like low tunings and having a bass in there, it's almost like you don't have to be as accurate tuning the bass. Like it's, you can, if you have a song in B, for instance, even though you tune your bass, like in that area, it's so tough to hear if a bass
Yeah,
is in
yeah.
tune or not.
Yeah.
So, like you said, it's extremely important when you're in E that it's completely, all the
Yeah,
tones
yeah.
matter, and the tuning is very important. But at the end of the day, I also, having it in standard E, you have to be a really, really good riff writer. And I think you are.
Thank you.
It's very riffy, the songs in Sylosis. It's not cheating. That's the feeling I get. It's stupid calling it cheating because I tune down as well sometimes. But it's not relying on these, zeros all the time that a lot of bands do, use as crutches sometimes.
I have to put it down to just being obsessed with And Justice for All.
Yeah.
And just like trying to get as many riffs in a song as I can.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. That record, I remember I was into Slipknot, and my older sister, I was talking to her boyfriend at the time. I was like, check this band out, they've got percussionists. And I played him Sick, and I was like,
Yeah.
He was like, no, that's double pedal. I was like, I didn't realize the intro was like the feet. I thought it was the percussionist. And the next day he gave me And Justice for All. I was like, that's double pedal. And like, I got a 4-track tape recorder, and I'd be like trying to do all the To Live Is To Die, like harmony guitar stuff. So that record's just the blueprint for Sylosis, yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, how old were you when you started Sylosis?
Like 12?
Oh my God.
Yeah, but again, we were just kids. So that's how long the name's been around.
Yeah.
So,
So how early did you start working with production? Or like, I guess you started like everyone else did, start recording yourself. And,
kind of necessity. Like, I had a 4-track, and I always had an interest in tones, and I'd always look at my favorite records and see Andy Sneap or Colin Richardson on the back of them. And then partly just got into it because of local studios. Like, no, you needed so much money to be able to spend the time that you need to get good performances, which is the main thing, as you know. I figured, I don't know what I'm doing, but I've got the time to figure it out, and I just got a very basic home setup and got the first like drum kit from Hell when that came out, that kind of stuff. I used to have like a keyboard, and I played drums on the keyboard on the 4-track. I got pretty good at that. I was interested in it, but also I didn't trust anyone else locally. We couldn't afford to go spend 2 weeks recording just 4 songs, which is, I think, a realistic amount of time to get a good sounding recording.
Yeah.
It's all about the playing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, going to someone else to entrust them with a sound that might not might clash with your vision of the band. I mean, then the only way to get away from that is doing it yourself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've been producing all and mixing like all the latest albums. Did you do
the last 2?
These last 2, okay. Yeah. How does that feel? Like being a part of the whole process of writing? Because do you do demos or?
Yeah.
And then do you re-record, or do you just move the demos into a mixing stage and then?
Yeah, I do a bit of that. So a lot of the vocals, maybe the leads, anything that's not main rhythm guitars, bass and drums.
Yeah.
So like any textures and sounds, I'll try and get the demo to sound like a finished recording.
Yeah.
Then we'll go record drums, and then we'll spend some time properly tracking guitars and bass. And vocals, I just spend as much time with as I can, because you can only do like 2 hours a day maybe of screaming. So that's just like a ongoing thing. Yeah.
Do you think it's a challenge when you're writing a song, this path from writing the song to then having to mix it, then to master, and I mean, it's a long process. Don't you get sick and tired and a little bit blind too?
Yeah,
like
definitely.
Listening to your song for 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Isn't that a challenge?
Yeah, and I work closely with Ermin, who mixes your stuff, and he masters the Sylosis stuff.
Right.
And he's very patient with me.
Yeah.
Because I've spent too much time, like, I'll just do a mix and I'm going to change this.
Yeah.
Going to reamp the guitars, and he'll always help steer it for me. So that's always useful. But yeah, definitely go mix blind.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you live with it for so long. I did want someone else to mix the last record, and I was ready to just take a step back.
Yeah.
And then I got a mix back, and I was just like, I know what I want it to sound like, and just did it. Yeah.
Yeah. But maybe that's good then. I mean, that's what we're doing now with the Haunted, with test mixing.
Yeah.
It's more about, okay, maybe we don't know what we want it to sound like, but when we hear the test mix, we would probably be more clear of what we want.
Yeah.
And then we can go whatever route we want. So I think it is sometimes good to let some other people touch your work.
Yeah, definitely.
And just give you twist your perspective a little bit.
Yeah. I think at this point I'm probably gonna do the mixing, but I really like to work with. I want to work more with producers who are gonna get involved with the songs.
Yeah.
And we have worked with a guy, Scott Atkins.
Yes.
He used to play in Stamping Ground.
Okay.
Who recorded with Sneak back in the day, and Scott's done. He engineered the mix of Evangelion Behemoth with Colin Richardson.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And he's done some other stuff with Andy, like a Monomath guitar production.
Okay.
So, and he does all the Cradle of Filth records.
Okay, all right.
So we've worked with him. He produced and mixed our first 2 full-length albums, mixed fourth album, and more recently he mixed or produced like our drums, recorded guitars with me, and I got him involved in the demo stage.
Yep.
To just give me feedback, which we never really asked for before.
Yep.
I just had this like, we know what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
But now I kind of seek it out, and the band's manager, he's been really good at just steering us into, well, just being brutally honest.
Yeah.
And just said like the record before, it was like, it's a good record, but it needs more like memorable moments,
right.
Like big sections, and I kind of hadn't really thought about the vocals as much as he was like, putting more emphasis on that. So
yeah.
I really like having people involved in the project and the band members, obviously. But in terms of mixing, I'll probably just be me.
All right.
Yeah.
So when you do mix and when you do reamp, I mean, I know for a fact you're like a 5150 guy.
Yeah.
Has that always been like your go-to?
No, I mean, kind of. The first amp I got was the original Triple X.
Yep.
And when I first got it, I was like, I don't know how good this is.
Yep.
And then after a while, I just didn't scoop the mids fully and was like,
right.
this amp is actually really cool.
Yeah.
I still think it's one of the most underrated amps.
It is. It's great.
So I always like that. I used that on our first 2 EPs. And then the first record was 5150. Loved the tone on that, still do. Everyone was using them.
Yep.
Especially at that point when everyone was still using real amps.
Yeah.
And you'd play a show.
It was 5150 or rectifier, boosted.
Yeah. And just like, 6505s obviously.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, I need something else. So I got, started playing Marshalls. Again, we were trying to go a bit more like proggy and stuff. And I don't want to take all the credit for this, but I can't remember how I got in touch with the guy Dan Gower in the UK who does amp mods.
Yes.
And I got him to mod a JCM 800, and he started then selling that mod as like the Sylosis mod, which was cool. And then got another one from him. So I was using modded Marshalls for a while, and had like my own unique sound. More recently, like Nolly's got some, and Andy Sneap's using them.
Right.
I was first.
There you go.
No, I don't know. I'm sure like Dan's an amazing mod guy and makes amazing amps. So I'm sure people probably would have stumbled across his stuff anyway.
What was your idea? You started.
But yeah, so I was using those, and they were great amps.
Yeah.
But realistically, I love the 5150. That's just what I like. I stopped using it as a knee-jerk reaction to everyone else using it.
Yeah.
But I love the sound of those amps and a dual rectifier or a rectifier cab, like a oversized. So yeah, that's kind of my go-to.
Do you use like EMGs or what's your
Fishman's?
Fishman's,
Yeah.
but you used EMGs back in the day.
Yeah,
or-
pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, EMGs and 5150 is just a staple.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
but like you said, it is a sound that a lot of people were using back in the day.
Yeah, and I just have a soft spot for that era of like late 90s, early 2000s, especially Andy
Machine
Sneap
Head
tone. Yeah, Machine Head
More
stuff.
things changed.
Yep. Yeah, more things change.
It's one of the best like examples of a good 5150 in my opinion.
That's kind of my favorite thing. I can listen to records where I don't like the music, but if it's got a tone like that, I'll just listen to it anyway.
Yeah, I think those are the because everything you're saying right here is like it just resonates with everything I listen to, and the mixing, the albums that I listen to. You mentioned The Gathering, which is one of my favorite like rectifier albums.
Yeah.
Even though it's not very, I would say like Nevermore
Dead Heart.
Dead Heart is probably the most rectifiery, perfect tone in my opinion. But the violence of The Gathering is just, you know, it's untouched. But then the more things changed for the 5150.
Yeah. The first Testament record I got was the re-recordings, First Strike Still Deadly.
Yes, yeah.
And another great rectifier tone.
Yes.
And I think that record was one of the first times I was like, Andy Sneap, who is Andy Sneap? Like, I'd heard and seen his name before, but that one, I was like,
so clean.
Yeah. Who is this guy?
I think Andy Sneap really pulled out. He took the '90s was kind of chaotic in the sense that, you know, a lot of the mixes, which made them unique. You know, Andy Sneap kind of cleaned up the metal production a little bit, made it more, I wouldn't say popular sounding, but a little bit more.
Just clear and tight. Yeah. The first recording I heard by him that I didn't realize at the time was a band called Pissing Razors.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Kind of like a Pantera-esque like band from Texas as well. And he did their first few records, and it was like on a Free Kerrang CD in like '97, and it had like a Mega Bell ride, and like the way the guitars and the kicks, like obviously triggered, just sounded like so metallic.
You're right.
And it was just, I love that era.
Now that you mention it, just I think the bass tone on one of the, I don't think it's First Strike is Still Deadly, but I think it's the album afterwards that they did that has the bass tone is just perfect on a Testament album.
Was it Formation? That was a bit of a gap, maybe.
Yes.
When Scorn it came back.
Exactly.
Formation, Damnation,
anyways, what are you using live then nowadays?
Same as everyone, Quad Cortex,
What are you profiling in 5150 or?
Yep. I think I've got the album tone from when I reamped guitars. I took a capture of that, which is actually a 6505 because my actual 5150 was in Italy where it was getting profiled for the plugin.
Yep.
And then our other guitarist uses Quad Cortex, and it's the 5150 in the Quad Cortex and then one of my impulse responses. So it's not the same tone, but it might be the same cab.
Right.
But it's just maybe a different speaker or something. I will record a left and right guitar over the album, EQ it, and then whatever EQ I've done, I'll open up a parametric EQ on the Quad Cortex and copy those moves. And it can be quite involved, but I want to get as pure a tone as I can, so our sound guy just goes and turns up. It's more like a control freak thing.
Of course. No, I completely understand.
Yeah.
Completely understand. So have you, speaking about the Quad Cortex, have you experienced that you feel like the capture tone is sometimes better than some of the amp models in there?
I've only done it once, like the capture. I just sort of did it and was like, yep. And so I haven't played much with it in a captured way, but it sounded great when I A-B'd it.
Right. Yeah, that's just my experience. It's like the same thing. What we're doing with the Haunt, that I just captured I had a Synergy Powerball preamp, and just like, oh well, it's done. You know? And it sounds great, and it reacts great to the different. If you don't want to do too many tweaks, right? You don't want to change the gain or the bass and the treble because that's all destructive to the profile. Yeah. But it's okay. It works. You guys are touring. Where you have the rest of Europe left? What's up for what's happening after this?
More touring. We've got Australia in the new year, and then like festivals. We're going to be trying to write. I mean, writing for me, maybe it's the same for you. It's kind of like, I describe it as like spinning plates. Yeah. You just have I've got maybe one song that I've been working on for 5 years that has 3 riffs. Yes. Or I've got a brand new song that I'll write in 1 hour and it's done. Yeah, and exactly. You just build them all up. I don't set aside time to write. So,
do you write on tour?
Sometimes, yeah. It's a lot harder. Yeah. Yeah, not much, but I just got a nano Cortex just for that purpose. And I was thinking I'm going to be doing so much writing in the bandwagon in the US, and I did none. Yeah. So yeah.
Well, sometimes you just need to, take the vacation part of the touring.
Exactly. Yeah. And sometimes having a break from writing's good. Yes. I get asked about writer's block a lot. Yep. And if I get stuck on a song, I just start a new one. Yep. Or I'll get involved in just tones and production, or just rip something off and cover your tracks. Put it in a different key, different tempo, play it backwards.
So how do you usually start writing a song? Like, is it, do you switch from, okay, you have a drum pattern in your head, or do you like, do you start with the riff?
Yeah,
always?
riffs, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes like a riff will just come to me, and I can sometimes write a riff in my head. Like if I'm in the shower, I can kind of just about tell what the notes are.
Yep.
I don't have perfect pitch, but I can kind of come up with ideas without actually having a guitar on my lap.
Do you remember it afterwards? Or
sometimes, yeah. If I'm like in the shower, then I'll like run downstairs.
That makes me happy, because I have like a panic mode where it's like, if something like that happens, it's like, shit, I have to remember and sing it, and then go to the guitar immediately.
Yeah, I do that.
So you record yourself on the phone, and then you listen, and you're like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, like it can come in different ways. Another thing I used to do a lot when I still lived at home with my parents, they had a piano, and I can play a piano. I've never had lessons and don't know how to read music, but that's such a cool way of coming up with like interesting melodic ideas, where you're not just looking at the same fretboard and I can go 8, 5, open. That's the generic chord progression, and you may stumble across the same old chord progressions that you use anyway, but you might just be inspired because you're kind of just fumbling around.
Right.
So I like to do that with melodic stuff. Okay. And sometimes Sylosis is kind of known for having like big melodic build-up sections, and sometimes I'll write those first, find out what key and tempo the song is, and then write riffs
around that,
either side of it. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, completely varies. We used to, do what normal bands did, where you go rehearse in a place and like jam riffs.
Yes.
But it just doesn't happen anymore. Yeah.
It's just
Do you guys ever do that?
I mean, that's how I grew up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Haunted. Do you ever do it now?
No, we all live in different spaces, and it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
When we're sound checking, we're just being silly.
Yeah.
And so
I'm more mindful now of trying to write standing up.
Yeah.
And like, it sounds kind of lame, but like kind of feeling the riff as if you're going to like play it live.
Absolutely.
And then I'm trying to not just stick to one tempo. That's something I've been guilty of.
Yeah.
And you just like being a guitarist, sat in front of a computer.
Yes.
That kind of something I'm trying to break away from.
I think that a challenge for me as a guitar player that writes is that you overplay and you overwrite. And I think that you probably have a great advantage since you're singing, that you can like dial back the guitars where the parts are. For me, it's like, this intricate riff right here, and then that's gonna be the verse, and then you put the vocals on. It's like, oh shit, so much shit happening.
One of our like biggest songs from our first record, we never play it live, and I feel like really confident as a singer now. And people are like, it's because you can't sing. It's because I can't do the verse riff because I didn't. It's like.
Right, yeah.
It's because it's like and the vocals don't go with that. If I practiced it, I probably could do it. But like for me, like some people are like, it's so impressive, like you do both at the same time. It's just boring practice. Like I have to spend like at night time when everyone's gone to sleep, I'll be downstairs on the sofa, just whispering. Just one riff will take me a few weeks to get.
Right.
It's not. It doesn't come naturally.
Oh, that's good to hear for me. That's, I basically can't breathe and play at the same time.
I can't even like just talk to the crowd unless I've kind of do it in time or know where I'm gonna speak. So it's not. There's nothing that comes naturally. It's really boring. It's the same with anything. Like people are like, how do you get good at sweep picking? What's the magic exercise?
Right.
Just do it a lot. It's boring.
Have to practice. So you guys released an EP last year, and you're going to write for something. You're probably going to write for an album then? Yeah. Okay. Do you think that switching up EPs and albums might be a good idea for the future?
If I'm being completely honest, we didn't really have any intention of doing an EP.
Okay.
We just recorded 15 songs for the record, and we wanted to, because our albums in the past were so long, we wanted to just do like a 10-track album, fits on one single vinyl disc. So we had these songs left over, and some of those songs are my favorite songs, but they just didn't fit for the record. And we obviously wanted them to come out, so we did the EP.
Okay.
So it's kind of just, I don't want to say, like, it is B-sides. But,
maybe they just fit the dynamic of the album.
Yeah.
I mean that's fine.
Yeah, I'm super proud of them. Like, I was so happy with all the songs that I kind of just let label and management kind of curate the track listing. And I just was like, yeah, go for it.
No, you have to test.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to be less like controlling over a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And one of the things that helped from being an architect was the first record I wrote with those guys, the first few demos. I was the only one writing like riffs and guitar stuff, and it had to go through Dan, the drummer's funnel.
Yeah.
So I'd send him a song, and it'd come back reworked.
Okay.
And that's never happened to me. So I was like,
yes.
You know, and he understood as well. It was like a very difficult thing to get used to.
Absolutely.
And now I'm just all for it.
Yeah.
Just tear it apart,
Yes.
or at least tell me what you think, or with the track listing, I'll just try not to be and let other people have.
It's good for your ego, if anything.
Yes.
I mean, it's just, I went through the same process. It's tough when people kind of pick on your stuff.
Yeah.
And like, oh, not this, and you're like, okay, you're sitting there like, I'll try and rework it. It's good for your ego to
100%
to have that happen to you.
Yeah.
So what did you bring with you from the architects?
That's the main thing.
Yes.
Just learning to collaborate more, because.
And not being the main guy, main writer thing.
Well, not to be like too like big-headed about it, but on those last 3 records, it was only like me and Dan writing music.
Yeah.
50-50-ish.
Yeah.
But it would go through his funnel, you know, it's his band from the start.
Absolutely.
So just that collaboration of just being like, well, I've submitted this song, here you go. And as time went on, I'd just try not to spend too long writing. Because, you know, before it'd be like, I spend a month on a song, I'd agonize over the structure, and then it'd just get changed, which is fair enough. And then it just became more of a like, oh, here's like 20 songs.
Right.
Just like write a song.
That must feel nice. I mean, then you don't have to sit and be like, you let that to someone else to arrange.
Yeah, and then he would just have like an instinctive response. So like, it usually worked out like the biggest song on For Those That Wish to Exist was like, I wrote it in the morning, sent it to him, he finished it the next morning, and it was very different from the demo, and that became like the first single. That usually happens, like the last song you write for a record is like, just comes out really quickly, and you're like, oh, it's the best one.
Yeah, exactly.
I spent like months on this one, and it's like...
Yeah, I know the feeling.
Yeah.
So, man, thank you so much. It's been a pure pleasure, and good luck with the rest of the tour.
Thank you.
Josh, everyone. Hell yeah.
Thank you.